So today we have another guest, and it is Ben West, the man himself. He's such an amazing person. He does so much work. He is a fellow legacy recipient with the Diane Award as well. And just to start things off, Ben, could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the work that you do?
Of course I can. Hello, everyone. Nick, thank you so much for having me on. It's always lovely hearing
Oh,
from you and reading
pleasure
about
to
what
meet
you're doing. I find you and everything you do so inspiring. So thank you so much for having me on. My name is Ben West. I'm a mental health campaigner, and basically a few years ago, I lost my younger brother to suicide. And at that time, I had no idea what mental health was. I had no idea what any of these mental illnesses were. Up to the point where, a girl in my year group took a day off because she had a panic attack, and I was laughing about that with my friends, and had no idea the severity of some of this stuff. And then Sam died, and I realised actually almost everyone I knew was suffering with something they weren't telling people about. There was almost everyone I knew had something going on that they didn't feel comfortable talking about, and that taboo and that realization that so many people were hiding things and not feeling comfortable to talk about these things made me want to try and open that conversation. So it started with me trying to open that conversation up within my local community and within my school, and then very quickly that took to a national level, and I'm trying to get national change through Parliament and change legislation regarding mental health training for teachers.
Yeah, and you've done a great job with that, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your brother as well. And I think it's sad that most people who really stand out and make a change, they've gone through their own hardships in life, and
Mm.
mental health especially is such a massive aspect of how of people's lives, especially of a lockdown. It has got 100 times worse. It's
Yeah.
affected me myself, and I can name countless people as well. And it is definitely an issue that is not spoke about enough, and we haven't taken enough action to help with it. And yeah, as I said, the lockdown has affected every person in the world in some way. And I campaign for anti-bullying, and a massive effect of bullying is mental health as
Mm.
well. So I just want to ask you, if there was someone that was really motivating to you, that kept you on through your hardships in life, and was there someone that really inspired you to be who you've become today?
Um, to an extent, I don't think there was one person. I think, I can't point the finger at one person and say they're the reason I, got up in the morning and put these countless hours in. I think it was a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, with what happened to my brother and everything he went through, that was to me quite a motivator. Trying to stop that from happening to someone else. But also, every day I get so many messages online, so many messages on Instagram from people that are really having a hard time and really struggling, whether that's in lockdown, whether that's because of something else, whether that's because of bullying. There's so many people struggling, and for them to turn around and say they have so much belief and so much hope because of something I'm doing, I don't think there's anything that can possibly get you out of bed and make you as motivated as that does. Because knowing something you'll do, and you'll know this feeling as well, I'm sure, knowing that something you're doing is actually making a real difference to other people's lives is such an incredible motivation. So that's really what what drives me forward.
Yeah, and we're talking about lockdown, and do you think it's really affected the work that you do lockdown? Do you think it's come to sort of slowing down because of the hardships that it's brought on to us? Do you think it's affected you as well?
In terms of my work, I'm not sure. I think I've been able to have what I, have my conversations online. Everything's been able to switch to on down. If anything, has made people more aware of the fact that we need to look out for each other a little bit more.
Mm.
However, obviously for me, I'm at uni. I've had a massive, it's just been a crazy, crazy year for me. It's been up and down. And so it hasn't been easy in terms of me personally. But I think people are finally becoming a little bit more aware around mental health. I mean, if you look online, a lot of the time people are now sharing mental health stuff. They're checking in on their friends. They're having these group calls and actually asking that question, are people okay? I think that's really lovely to see, because people are finally being more proactive in reaching out to their friends. People are a little bit more concerned about how people are doing, and I think that's a really, really crucial step. I'm just worried we'll come out of lockdown and people are going to forget that skill of asking if everyone's okay. So I think it's a mixed bag. Personally, it's been not a very nice year, as I'm sure a lot of people will agree with. But I think in some respects that conversation around mental health has slightly improved.
Yeah, and going into 2020, it's probably one of the worst years many of us have experienced for a long time, and a lot of people have turned to social media because they can't really speak face to face now. And do you think mental health has got worse from when you started your campaigning? Do you think it's got worse over lockdown, or do you think that there are more people like you doing that work to try and stop it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So like I say, I think we're having more conversations about mental health. I really do. But I have absolutely no doubt that the number of people affected by ill mental health and affected by mental health conditions has massively increased. From my discussions I've had with GPs, with mental health service professionals, with people that are working at the front line of mental health support, it is absolutely overwhelming the number of people that have reached out purely because of the stresses around coronavirus and lockdown. That has taken such a massive toll. And obviously we've got such a massive economic crisis that we're about to face. People are going to lose jobs. People are going to lose their homes. People are going to lose their businesses. And we know from history that economic crises brings with it mental turmoil and difficulty and struggling. And unfortunately, that in itself brings people to rely on support and to need support and to suffer with their mental health. And unfortunately, what we've seen is this enormous crisis that is causing people stress, but we haven't seen an improvement in the accessibility of the support that's available. We still heavily rely on the charitable sector to help those people in need. And unfortunately, until we see a radical improvement in that accessibility to support, I think we're going to face quite a difficult problem when we're not able to cope with that massive demand that's going to come. And it's inevitable that demand is going to come. We are in one of the biggest crises that we've had in centuries, and we're not ready to now deal with the aftermath of it in terms of the mental health crisis that we're going to face.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask you, do you think there are more pros or cons of social media?
Oh, another difficult one. I think at the moment, in my world, in my life, it's there's more pros than cons in my life. But I know for a lot of people, social media is an incredibly dangerous and damaging place.
And it's addictive as well.
Well, it's designed to be addictive, isn't it? You are a product. You are an advertising medium. You're being shown adverts, so they want you to be addicted to it. I think for a lot of people, they get it slightly wrong. And I've got to a point now where I know what to do with social media. I know how to make it a healthy place. I don't follow anyone that makes me feel bad. My social media is filled with people I like to see, my friends I want to catch up with, people I find inspiring, people like yourself with incredible stories. Those are the people I follow and want to see. And unfortunately, Instagram becomes difficult and social media becomes difficult when people aren't following people that make them feel good, but people they aspire to be like.
Yeah.
And I think if you go to social media and you use social media to be like someone else, then it's damaging. If you go to social media and use social media to be yourself, then it's incredibly positive. So I think it's very difficult, but for me, it's definitely a pro. But for a lot of people, it's a horrible place.
Is, yeah, for many people it can there are a lot of pros and cons of social media, but I think what people do is they don't really focus on the good side of it. They focus on the
Yeah.
bad side of it, and they let that haunt them, and then that leads on to many other difficulties that may come as well. And it's become a lot harder to handle, especially over lockdown, because there are so many more people on social media, which means there are more goods, but it also means that there are more bads. And I think these platforms are finding it harder to handle the amount of people that they've had to either ban or just stop. And Yeah, social media, as you exactly said perfectly, people go up to something and they want to make themselves like that. If they see someone and they've edited themselves over
Mm.
online, and they make themselves look like that because they believe that that's the perfect image, and yeah, there's a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons, but it was interesting to see your point as well. So thank you for answering that. But going on to more positive side, after this year is done, there are only, I think, 11 more days left of the year, and I'm so glad it's coming to an end.
Thank
Let's
God.
hope,
Yeah.
thank God. Let's just hope that next year is going to be better. But for you and your career and your campaign, where do you see yourself as in the long-term goals? You know, you've achieved the Diner Legacy Award. It's so amazing that you've done that. But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, maybe?
Wow. So I can tell you, I don't know necessarily where I'll be in 5 years, but I can tell you exactly where I'm not going to be. So I'm currently doing an engineering degree, and I
Um,
can tell you for absolutely certain that I'm not going to be an engineer. um, so that's where I'm not going to be. In terms of where I'd like to be, obviously, doing what I've done over the last few years. Like I said before, nothing gives you a motivation like knowing that something you're doing has importance in the world. And so to be able to keep doing that, I think would be incredible. I've been very, very lucky to be introduced and have subsequently signed with quite an important and high profile management agency. And we're having conversations at the moment about how we can develop this and how we can go further and how I can actually start to make some money so I can pay my rent and pay my bills, but in a way that's not cheating people and not using this cause as a way to make myself money. So I need to find some way of having an
yeah.
income, but I remain true to the fact that I don't want my message to be distorted by trying to get likes, because a lot of what I get online, a lot of the criticism I get is that I'm doing this for attention, and at no point have I ever done that. I want my message to be as authentic as possible. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's really exciting with them. Obviously, I've got contacts that are working on ways that we can get my message spread as far as possible. I would love to be involved with the media, journalism, talking about this. Basically, I love talking to people, and I love sharing people's stories, and I love sharing my story, and I love talking about social issues and tackling them and educating people. And if I can build that in some sort of career, then brilliant. I've got no idea how that's going to look, but let's just give it a go.
Yeah, you're doing absolutely amazing work now, and obviously everyone needs a source of income, and I suppose what you're doing is great, and if you can kind of utilize that, it will just be amazing, and especially the social skills that you have and you speaking to other people, it's hard, and not many people have that, and it's a very unique skill as well, and it's great, and yeah, there are obviously going to be trolls out there who are always going to be looking to bring you
Mm,
down. And I suppose it's sad to say, but it's become a part of our society, and we just have to accept it, which is it's sad, but it's true. And I think we're at that point now in time. It's a lot different than 10 years ago. I think life's become a lot harder. You have to be more careful about what you say on the internet, and there are more people who are out there intentionally trying to hurt you as well. So that kind of leads on to the next question. If there was one thing about the world that you would change, what would it be? It could be anything. It could be about how humans think, or about anything.
anything. If I could wave my magic wand.
Hmm.
Um, well, I think everyone, if I could wave my magic wand right now, I think I'd give everyone the opportunity to feel comfortable and supported with their mental health. I really, really do think if you are supported, if you are mentally healthy, and if you're able to get to a place where you're mentally healthy, everything else falls into place. You can have the motivation, you get up, you get the drive, you get the determination, all from that core ability to be mentally healthy. And I actually wrote an article called Mental Health as a Superpower, trying to actually change the focus away from mental health being a bad thing that you want to avoiding mental illness, to actually something to strive towards, and being mentally healthy as something that can transform your life. I think if I was to wave my magic wand and change something in the world, I'd want everyone to have access to therapy. Everyone should be on therapy. Everyone should have a counsellor. Everyone should have weekly counselling sessions. And it should be like going to the gym. It should be going to the gym for your brain, having a brain massage every week. Because I genuinely think I would revolutionise the world. I genuinely do think that. I mean, we lose billions of pounds every year in the UK economy because of ill mental health. If we were able to suddenly give everyone counselling sessions and make that support absolutely 100% accessible to everyone, I think that would change. That would be incredible. That would change everything.
Yeah, and definitely. Mental health not only affects our lives, but the people around us as well. And it can really stop everything. Especially, it can stop you doing work. It can stop you thinking
Yeah.
properly, and it can affect everything in your life. And ultimately, if it reaches that point that sadly many people have felt, it can lead to your death. And yeah, that
Yeah.
what you just said, yeah. And I think that everyone, if they do feel down, and if they if you do feel down, it's not really about speaking out. It's about if you're heard, and you need to be heard by someone, and you need to receive counselling, especially exactly what you said, and it would save so many problems as well. So yeah, thank you for that. Now on to my
100%.
next question. If there was one quote that you would live by, and you really like, whether you made it or you heard someone else make it, with it, even if it's a well-known one, what quote would you say means a lot to you?
Yeah, so it's not actually a well-known one, but it's one that I was told by someone in 2018, just after my brother died, and he said to me, it was a conference. He said, "You can't change what's happened, but you can change what happens next." And in that moment, that was quite pivotal actually, because I thought, actually, there's no point dwelling on something that's happened, and there's no point dwelling on bad news. You've just got to pick yourself up, deal with that bad news, and kind of position yourself to try and do something with what's happened. And that's how I've coped with what happened, and that's how I've coped with a lot of bad stuff that's happened. Now, even if you think about this tier 4 announcement, you can't change what happened, but you can change what happens next. Change your mindset. So I've really that quote I've taken to heart, and I've tried to embed that into how I live my life now.
Yeah, and it's true. We can't change the past, but we can change the future.
Yeah,
And we have to strive and try and make our life. We have to be happy before we can make others happy. And
yeah,
that I've always said that, and I've always believed in that, because you have to love yourself, and um, nothing matters more until that happens. And yeah, it's definitely a great quote as well. And it's clear to see that you're doing absolutely amazing work, and I wish you the best for the future. So to end it off on our final question, um the community has received your campaign, and you've done a lot of work, and I understand that you have a petition. Could you explain a bit more about that?
of course. So in the UK, teachers have to go through teacher training. So they have to go through a year where they learn to be a teacher. And during that teacher training, they get taught key skills around teaching, around safeguarding, around very basic first aid and emergency situations, sort of like anaphylactic shock and how to use an EpiPen. And then they go into teaching. At no point during that teacher training, for a majority of teachers, do they receive any sort of education around mental health. And for a boy in a classroom, it's the most likely way that they're going to die. Suicide is the most likely way they're going to die. And we know that mental illness in schools is absolutely rife. And I believe there should absolutely be that training in place. Teachers should be given that education. It's not only so they can look after their students, they can look after themselves, but also so they can educate those students around mental health as well. So we get that education in schools. So I started that petition to make mental health first aid a compulsory part of teacher training, and a lot of people decided that they were going to agree with me on that, and we are now on 310,000 signatures. Yeah, it's crazy. I was at an event and Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, approached me and we had an interview on camera and we were talking about it and he invited me to Downing Street. So we handed in this petition and we are slowly making progress and making that a reality. I know now that a number of teacher training organisations are now having mental health first aid training as part of their course, which is just fantastic. That's not a push from government, that's a push from the community. But it's absolutely lovely to see that happening because I think it's so vital that schools and teachers and students are prepared to deal with problems they're going to face and not just taught about maths and physics and chemistry. There are so many more issues to face at school than just those, and we need to be prepared to deal with them.
Yeah, definitely. It's so fantastic to see what you've done and the community backing you on that. And it's, yeah, because mental health is just as bad as any other injury you might get at school or anything you might face in the future. Because as I said, you can't focus properly if you have something always bothering you in the back of your mind. And the more you speak about and the more that you're heard, it helps you so much. And it's so great to see these teachers being trained. And I'd like to thank you again for all of the work that you've done. And you've affected many of our lives in a great way, especially in this dark time in the world that we're facing. Mental health is an issue that really needs to be focused on more often, because I feel like coronavirus is really shown a dark light on everything else, and we've kind of focused on it and we forgot about everything else behind. There's so many unresolved issues that we have yet to solve, and we're very imperfect and we have many flaws in the way that we live and our systems, and it's great to see the impact that you've made. And thank you so much for the time here today. You're an absolutely amazing speaker. You're an amazing person. So thank you again, and it's been great.